In this video, we will show you how to make a simple and affordable ping pong ball shooter. This is perfect for showing force and motion because you can pull back different amounts on the springs and see how that affects the motion of a ping pong ball.
You'll need a box to act as the frame. We'll be using an aluminum foil box. It needs to be large enough to fit a ping pong ball, but not much bigger than that. A carriage bolt or threaded rod, 5 washers and 2 nuts. We'll be using 1/4 by 1 1/4 washers because they're big enough to help keep the rod centered. You'll also need some kind of foam. The type doesn't really matter that much. We just want it to help hold the rod in the middle of the box. We'll use a large straw to make the handle, some clear plastic to make a cover, and of course, you'll need some compression springs. We'll be using 2 springs that are each about 2 inches long. You want them to be a medium strength, not too difficult to compress, but not super easy. If you want, you can also use a clear plastic ruler to measure how far back you're pulling.
In addition to all of these materials, you'll want some basic building materials like tape, scissors, and a pencil. We're going to start by making the frame. It's going to look something like this. So we take our box, and the first thing we need to do is to take off this metal cutting edge. So it should just come right off. Now we can go ahead and we're going to cut off the top of the box here. But you're going to want to save the cardboard because we're going to use it to reinforce the end of our box. We're also going to want to cut our box down to about 9 inches in length. So the end of your box should have a little tab in it. We're going to push that tab out and then just go ahead and cut it off. This box already has a hole in it, so we're just going to use that for our rod. Now we can take this end that we saved and trim it down to size. And then we can just use this to reinforce the end of the box here. So we're just going to fold it around. And then we can mark and cut a matching hole. Once that's done, then we can just go ahead and tape that onto the sides. Now that we're done with our frame, we can start on the middle. First thing we need to do is we need to cut out some of this foam. We're going to use it to support the rod. So we're going to cut out a square. Which needs to fit inside of your box here. So I'm actually going to use one of the washers, just line it up with the bottom here to center my hole. And you don't need to worry too much about the size of the hole because as you run your rod up and down through it, it'll make the hole bigger until it's the right size. I have some here that we've already cut and made. So they look kind of like this. Now that we have the foam, we can go ahead and just assemble everything on the rod. Okay, now that it's done, we can stick it inside here and through the hole. And then we can put on our handle. We've cut our straw down to about 3 inches long. It's not long enough to cover the whole thing, but we want it that way because it gives it freedom to move back and forth. I mean, just stick on the last nut. When you're done, it should look something like this. You can follow the link below for a more detailed diagram on how to build it. The last thing we need to do is tape on the plastic covering. You don't want to tape it on too tightly or it will squeeze the ping pong ball and restrict movement. But just tape it on the sides and on the end here too. If you want to, you can also attach a clear plastic ruler on the top or on the sides. It'll help you if you want to keep track of how far back you're pulling on your spring. And that's how you make a simple ping pong ball shooter. There's lots of things you can do with it. For example, you can take ping pong balls and fill them up with different substances like water or sand so that you could have different masses to play with. You can also use a spring scale to measure exactly how much force as you pull back on the springs. But the most important part is to remember to just have fun with it.